I think I've been watching too many American podcasts on YouTube because I nearly started this episode of Moody Monday with, "What's up, Moody Gang?" It's because I watched the Call Her Daddy podcast with Millie Bobby Brown the other day. Actually, I didn't finish it. I started watching it and then I stopped. Millie Bobby Brown has been in the media because she came out with a new bleach blonde, long locks, filler in her lips, Millie. It's giving like Pamela 2000s vibes, and everyone's like, what's going on with this? And I was curious, so I tuned in for a bit, but just wanted to start actually by thanking all the new subscribers to our channel. We've been making these video podcasts and putting them on YouTube, and we went from about 20 something subscribers to 200 subscribers in a week, which is honestly amazing. But it did also bring to my attention after one person commented, "What the frick am I watching on a video?" And another person said, "I hope you're okay and well," that I'm not just talking to my friends anymore, and that we maybe should be addressing the elephant in the room, aka the dog in the room. So it might surprise some of you to know that I'm not actually a dog. I only appear as one on Mondays to talk about random topics that literally nobody asked me to talk about. Who is behind the dog mask shall remain a mystery. No, not really. I probably am going to link my name or have linked my name before in the descriptions of the videos that I post. There is a theory to my dog madness though. A couple of months ago, I went to Vienna, and while I was in Vienna, a friend of mine actually, she wanted to go to the Freud Museum. And so I was like, all right, cool. Freud lived in Vienna and is from Vienna, and his apartment, his family home, that was also his practice, has now been turned into a museum and you can go visit it. The irony being though that in the last 2 years of the Second World War, him and his family actually had to escape Vienna because of the Nazis, and they left and they went to London, taking basically all of their belongings with them. So there is apparently a second Freud museum in London that is packed full of all of his family belongings and things that he owned from the time that he was alive. The apartment that he lived in for 50 years in Vienna, which is also a museum, has literally nothing in there. So you're walking around kind of like a European apartment that would be up on Wege gesucht. It was kind of funny. It's a beautiful apartment. So anyway, in his apartment, because it was also his practice, there's the waiting room where his patients used to come, and then also his office where he would treat his patients. Freud, besides obviously being the godfather of psychoanalysis, also had a specific technique that he implemented with his patients, which is called the analytic couch, whereby basically his patient would lay down on this chaise lounge and Freud would sit behind them. And the reason why he would be sitting behind them instead of in front of them, looking them directly in the eye, is because he wanted to promote a free association space for his patients to open up. And he thought that that was more likely to happen when they just feel like they're alone in the room, being able to vent rather than having someone looking in their face judging them, which I get it. I definitely get it. And I think that's a part of the reason why this dog avatar is here instead of me sitting directly in front of the camera. But I mean, it's some people, like, I think some people might hear that and be like, that's a stretch, hun. On some level it is a stretch and some level is not. I mean, there is an aspect of just running a podcast on your own that feels very narcissistic. And I don't think I literally could edit this podcast if I had to look at my face the whole time. I'm just not that kind of person. No shade or shame to anybody who is, like, love to them. A lot of people do this and have no problems with it. I just do. So this is a good workaround that I came up with, and I think I look cute as a dog. So speaking of Freud, this week's topic of Moody Monday, I wanted to talk about, what does success mean to you? So recently I started therapy, and in one of my sessions we were talking about this aspect of what success means to me. It got me thinking and it got my fingers Googling. Actually, I have to be real. I'm half the time these days Googling and half the time ChatGPTing my stuff. I'm actually quite curious how it is with other people. Like, who's using Google, or what percentage are people using Google and what percentage are people using ChatGPT when they have a question or something that they want to find out? For me, it's like 50-50 and starting to get really honestly like maybe 70-30, ChatGPT being 70 and Google being 30. So I got Googling. I just wanted to know, besides like what success means to me, I wanted to find out a little bit of what success means to a larger demographic of people. So I went to the internet, as you do, and there's a couple of areas, like, I mean, I guess when I think of success, what success means to me and what I'm referring to specifically in this podcast and what I was referring to with my therapist was career related, not so much all round life related stuff. When Googling, career and financial success was at the top of the list as well. It's mentioned that basically some people see success as climbing the corporate ladder, or they see success as owning a business or achieving financial freedom. Like, for them, success might mean making six figures or owning a home or a car or being able to retire early because they've just accumulated so much wealth. And then for other people, that might not be so important, or it might be less important than personal fulfillment and happiness. Some people might define success as simply being happy and being able to do what they love, and that not being related directly to how much money they're making with what they love, as long as they can sort of get by. Being able to pursue their passions and being able to travel and spend time with their family is like the ultimate marker of success. Then some people also might really have a strong focus of impact and legacy, what they're going to leave behind to others and the world because of what they've done, what charitable acts they've done, or what mentoring they've done, like that's really their ultimate marker of having lived a successful life and being a successful individual. And then other people are just like, really, work-life balance is super important to them. So they're like, I don't care about wealth if that wealth means that I didn't have the freedom to enjoy my life because I was overwhelmed with work all the time. Some people might consider themselves successful if they have time for their hobbies and time for their family and their personal growth. Shock horror, And then there's also considering success through the lens of personal growth and learning, constantly improving yourself and gaining knowledge, having multiple degrees. That's like some people's ultimate marker of success. It's just like, how many degrees do you have? How much knowledge do you have? How much can you share with others? And then some people are just like health and well-being. Success is about maintaining your physical and mental health and being stress-free and like a fit and healthy individual. And if you're not fit and healthy and don't have a good body and your mental health isn't strong, then screw the rest. And then finally, I mean, there's a bunch, right? But like everything that I found is like being condensed and to some degree generalized. But like the last one on the list is spiritual or inner peace. So defining your life, if you've been successful at life through whether you've had faith, whether you've been practicing meditation and mindfulness, whether you've connected to your spirit and your core and found peace and contentment and happiness and purpose. That's the ultimate marker of success, soulful inner peace and balance. It got me thinking a lot about what success meant to me growing up and how that definition has changed over time and gotten to the point where it is now. I remember when I was a kid, I think I was like, sometimes I have a bit of difficulty remembering what I was thinking when I was a 10-year-old as opposed to a 7-year-old or like a 12-year-old. It's a bit hazy. And I think probably this comes from the fact that my dad is an engineer and he worked in an office. But I as a kid, as a 10-year-old, really thought that, like, basically I saw myself being a boss bitch CEO. Like, that's what I considered to be successful. I must have been a bit older than 10 then if I was thinking this, but I was probably about 12. before I went to high school, because when I went into high school, I jumped on the Kurt Cobain grunge love train. So I wasn't thinking about success in these terms. So it must have been 11 and 12 that I was seeing this corporate ladder CEO as like the marker of a successful individual. And before that, I think I saw like gold medalists as successful individuals, or Leonardo DiCaprio as a hot and successful individual. And I saw having a husband and kids as not successful. I don't think I ever saw that as successful. I just thought that was normal, you know. My mum always raised me on the principles of being honest and kind. But when it came to doing good in the world, like charitable acts, we were like very first gen immigrants. What I mean by that is like the main focus of first generation immigrants is usually coming from nothing. So your like main focus is just on surviving and feeling okay. You know, like not feeling sad all the time and lonely and grieving your family that you left behind. When the struggle is real and you're really fighting for your survival and fighting to sort of have food for your family to eat and sort of like gain wealth, I guess, then charitable acts and stuff are like falling a little bit to the wayside. It was ingrained in me in a sort of moralistic sense to be open to volunteering and being kind to others, but it wasn't ingrained in this like primary core focus of that's what will make the most purpose out of your life, is if you can make a positive impact on the world through your generosity and time that you spend with non-profit organizations, stuff like that. So I guess like as a kid, I had these sort of views. Living in the Western world and Western society, the image that the West has of success is wealth and power. That's just ingrained in the core belief of the West. So when it comes to success, it's always tied to money somehow. And I guess like in my mind, and even like I said, as a kid, you can clearly see that if I was like 11 and I considered walking around an office and just being a boss bitch as like the coolest thing to do, it must have come from somewhere. I didn't just dream up that completely by myself. I mean, it could have come from like I said, my dad did work in an office and he was an engineer. He wasn't a boss. And my mum was an artist. Because of that reason, I would say like it came from a bit of the society as well that I was living in. But it's interesting how my definition of success has changed over time. Recently, what I was talking to my therapist about was specifically that I've been thinking about changing my career paths, and then I'm actually considering studying some type of psychology and becoming a therapist maybe myself, but that I'm also dragging my feet on that, and that I think a part of the reason why that is because I feel like if I change career paths at this point in my life, it feels like the final nail in the coffin, like that I now have to admit to myself that I've just failed in my previous career as a video maker. And there's obviously something quite hard to swallow in that. Like if there is no bridge there between the old and the new in my career, it's just a completely fresh start. I think there is a grief and a loss of a former self or something that I'm just not quite ready for. But yeah, so then she was like, oh, interesting. What does success mean to you? Because I guess what she was getting at or alluding to is, why do I see it this way? Like, why do I see it as that I've failed at something? And why can't I just have other interests? And that's amazing, not a fail. So then I realized that what success means to me now is being able to make a living where I'm not struggling all the time with what I love to do. It was a struggle for me for a long time, and then it wasn't for a while, and then it was again. And when it was again, I was just at that age, I guess, where I was 40 and just started to question things. And then we're just in a recession right now. So the job market is not good. And all of that combined threw me into this spin of, what am I doing? I'm failing. This sucks. But one thing that I have recognized in myself and also through thinking about this topic is that all the things that I've never really appreciated, and one of the things that I never really appreciated is the fact that I got to do what I loved and what I was interested in. Because this is something that for a lot of people is just not the reality. For example, like my mum. My mum always was drawing as a kid, and she was just very interested in art. And her parents, when she finished high school, she grew up in former Yugoslavia, right? So when she finished high school, her parents were just like, "You're not going to fine arts school. Are you crazy? You're not going to have any money." So they were like, they basically, and she was like a good girl who listened to her parents. So they basically forced her to go study economics. And so my mum got an economics degree, never in her life worked in that field. But when she had me, basically from this whole experience with her family, the one thing that she knew that she didn't want to do to her child was make them do something that they don't love just in order to have a job, in order to be able to have money. So she was just like giving me the freedom and privilege to explore what I love and follow that. When that is just so like ingrained in you, I guess I just didn't even really have the perspective to appreciate it, to think, wow, I actually managed to make videos for 15 years. That's a really long time to be doing something that I love to be doing. It's wild how one person's perspective is not everyone's perspective or experience, you know? So that's something that I really recognize. That could be just a marker of success itself, that I even got to do this for such a long time. So that's not a fail in any way. But I think, you know, two things have come out recently to me of what I consider to be successful. Number one is being happy, and something that has severely shifted for me in recent years, which I've understood more, is that health is wealth. I think it's just natural as you get older, you start feeling the little not kinks. You start feeling the faults in your body more, you know, and you start getting more things come up. Like, you know, last year I fucked my back. Recently, after having COVID, I think twice, I mean, I don't know the first time if it was COVID or not, I developed these post-viral symptoms, like neurological symptoms, and I haven't been able to shake them. And they've been really like impacting my day-to-day. From all of that, like I've just really realized that all the rest means nothing if you don't feel well. And then besides health, that being like a huge foundation of being able to feel happy and successful. And lastly, it is this money thing. Like I want to have the freedom to be able to do what I want. I hate that I do associate money with success. I just also have to admit it to myself that like I am someone who likes to travel. So that is important to me. So if I don't make enough money so that I can travel and enrich my life in that way, I don't care so much about like owning a house or a car, you know, specifically in Europe, you don't really need a car. But because I have been really obsessed with interior design shows of late, I know that I'm also like someone who would buy or want to buy a 2,000 euro couch or like a nice coffee machine because I really enjoy having good coffee at home. It won't be the end of me if I can't have these things, you know, because on another hand, I know that I'm not really a materialist. I know that just because of the amount of times that I've moved or left things in different places. Lots of things that hold value to people like clothing, objects, photos, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And I've left a lot of that behind in different places. And I know that like if my home burnt down and I didn't have anything left, you know, like I would be sad that like in hindsight after like it all settled, that pair of jeans that I love is no longer there, that kind of stuff. But I know that I'd just be like, oh my God, we're so lucky to be alive. My loved ones are alive. My dog's there. I'm alive. Who cares about anything else? So like deep down, I don't care about the couch or the coffee machine or any of that kind of stuff. It's more, I think, that like when you're not struggling, when you can dream, or when you could tell someone all the things that you would like to have, then I would be like, okay, well, if I had the money, I would buy that, or I would like that, whatever, And I think, like, to me, in my early 40s, the marker of success in some way is that I lived a life where I could have those things, have my health, have love, have balance, and finally, and funnily enough, because I also grew up with a mom who placed a lot of importance on inner peace and the spiritual side of things, to the point that it was just so ingrained in me that I hardly view inner work and connecting to yourself and your spirit and grounding and having inner peace as an indicator of success. Because this aspect of things is so far removed in Western society from being able to put food on the table. Like, it's just like, oh, you're a really grounded, mentally, spiritually connected kind of person. Wow, that's really impressive. But do you have a job? And then it's just like, not right now. I'm between things right now, but I'm meditating all the time and I feel great. Like, it's easily taken for granted, like by others. A person who's sort of like spiritually connected and grounded, if this same person doesn't have a job. But I will say that at the end of my life, I will have viewed that as the biggest marker of success, whether I was happy and whether I could find that sort of inner peace, and whether I was connected to the world and to myself spiritually. But also recently I started to take note of all the good deeds that my partner does for others. Like, a friend of ours needs someone to pick them up from the airport, and he'll get in his car and be there. Or like, another friend needs help renovating the house that he bought, and he'll get into his car and drive an hour out of Berlin, and he'll be there. And I can tell, like, and he even says that it makes him feel good. Like, it's just feels good to be doing something for other people. And it got me thinking how I've been so fixated for a really long time, in a way, on getting myself right, because I had this sort of idea that you can't help anybody else until you help yourself. Like, so I was like, I need to deal with my anxiety issues or my self-worth issues before I can really like step up and be there for others. I'm sorry, but I can't pick you up right now. I'm dealing with my existential crisis. All jokes aside, though, I'm sort of getting to the realization these days about how self-centered that actually is. Not saying that all of these things, like my anxiety issues or self-worth, generational trauma, grief, all of that has sort of peaked at different times of my life and been quite overwhelming. And in the moments when this stuff is overwhelming, it is important to address it, because it can feel so overwhelming that you literally can't really be there for another person properly. But you know how people say as well that there's never a right time to have children or have a child. Equally, I think there's never going to be a moment when you're just all good, And in that way, I also think it's important to understand that we're all fucked up. Like, everybody's got problems. So to think of it this way and be a little bit like, but you've got this. Now start focusing your energy a bit more externally rather than internally. What you leave behind you, like sort of what impact and what you did for others, is hugely important. How you manage to help other people, maybe equally up there as important and a marker of success as is you yourself finding inner peace and happiness. So that's me. That's some of the thoughts that I've been having about success and what it means. But I wanted to end the podcast essentially with asking the question to you guys. What do you measure success by? Like, is it by your achievements? Is it by your happiness? Or is it by something else entirely? And that's it for this Moody Monday podcast. Thanks for listening. I hope you've been well. I'm not going to be here for the next couple of weeks because we are actually going to Japan, and stay tuned for a visual diary on YouTube coming out of our trip to Japan. But we'll be back mid-April with the next Moody Monday. Otherwise, Moody Monday every Monday with a moody new topic. Lots of love.